Do you remember? A scientist once said, "God does not play dice." The person who said this was none other than Albert Einstein, the founder of the theory of relativity. Why did Einstein say God doesn't play dice? It all starts with the beginnings of quantum mechanics. At the beginning of the 20th century, quantum mechanics was in its infancy. Scientists started studying quantum mechanics when a physicist named Max Planck came up with a concept called energy quanta to explain blackbody radiation. Later, due to the needs of quantum field theory, in 1940, a Swedish-Austrian scientist Pauli repeatedly proved that spin is the basic parameter of all particles. So the spin of particles is only in the micro. The spin parameters of a particle are dynamic until they are not detected. For example, whether the spin is up or down is uncertain. Later, after the efforts of many great scientists such as de Broglie, Schrödinger, Heisenberg and so on, so quantum mechanics finally has the most basic point of view, that is, quantum superposition and entangled states. But precisely because of these two views at that time can be said to have set off the entire scientific community debate. The debate centered on the traditional physics school represented by Einstein and the Copenhagen school represented by Niels Bohr. So what are quantum superpositions and entangled states? Here I will start directly from Niels Bohr's point of view. Niels Bohr's side believed that it was impossible to determine whether a particle's spin was up or down before it had been observed. At this time the particle is in a superposition state that is both up and down, which is full of uncertainty. By splitting a particle into NB particles and moving in opposite directions to each other, no matter how far apart the two particles are, we just need to observe one particle and immediately know what the other particle is. For example, when you observe the A particle, you immediately know that the other is the B particle, and this situation is interpreted as entanglement in quantum mechanics. It is believed that the A and B particles are related to each other in some way. So those are some of the views on the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. But when Einstein's side saw that quantum mechanics was full of uncertainty, they began to disagree. The idea is that if particles A and B are far apart, the information between them can't travel faster than the speed of light to the other side. Otherwise, when particle A is observed, how does particle B tell particle A that it is particle B? Is there a ghost operating between each other? Einstein thought that physics should be a little more cautious, need to conform to local theory and realism. He also said that there should be some determinable hidden variable parameters, which thinks that the particle has not been observed before it has been determined whether it is biased up or down. It was only because their scientific development was not advanced enough at that time that they could not find a hidden variable that could tell whether a particle's spin was up or down. And he said to Bohr that God doesn't play dice. Einstein, along with Podolsky and Rosen, published a paper in May 1935 that later became known as the EPR paradox. Published in the 47th issue of the journal Physical Review, paper titled "Can Quantum Mechanical Description of Physical Reality Be Considered Complete?" So although Einstein is one of the founders of quantum mechanics, he has been searching for this hidden variable to refute quantum mechanics, but unfortunately Einstein could not find it at the last moment of his life. So in quantum mechanics, is it Einstein's hidden variable theory or Bohr's uncertain wave function theory? In 1964, an Irish physicist named Bell came up with an experiment to test whether there were hidden variables called Bell's inequality. Until the three scientists who won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2022 came along, namely the French scientist Alain Nasp and the American scientist John Cross and the Austrian scientist Anton Salinger. They have obtained results from photon experiments several times, all of which violate the Bell inequality of the Irish physicist Bell. So the violation of Bell's inequality means that the hidden variables mentioned by Einstein do not exist, that the particle does not have some parameter that can determine whether the spin is up or down before it is observed. The fact that the Bell inequality is not violated means that the hidden variable exists, and by detecting the hidden variable, we can determine whether the spin is skewed up or down. Then on November 30, 2016, Austrian scientist Anton Salinger carried out a Big Bell experiment by using starlight, and after the end of this experiment, quantum mechanics basically had a recognized result, that is, Bell's inequality was still violated and Einstein's hidden variable theory was directly negated. Quantum mechanics continues with the wave function theory of the Copenhagen school, which shows that there is indeed an action at a distance between particles A and B, and quantum mechanics is full of uncertainty. However, it should be noted that the above content has been simplified to describe the development of quantum mechanics, so there are many classical figures and experiments are not mentioned. For example, Pan Jinwei, Executive Vice President of the University of Science and Technology of China, Wu Jiangsheng, a Chinese female physicist, the Stern-Gerlach experiment, Schrödinger's cat, and so on. These characters and experiments have contributed to promoting the creation of quantum information, and you just need to check the internet to learn more interesting classic characters and stories in the development of quantum mechanics. Then again, do the hidden variables emphasized by the traditional physics school represented by Einstein really do not exist? And the Copenhagen school of uncertainty theory has been adopted. Does it mean that quantum mechanics is really complete? In order to pay tribute to scientists and other scientists around the world as knowledge sowers in the past, I intend to draw a new formula to discuss this topic with you. Let's analyze whether there really are no hidden variable parameters through this formula. We all know that people depend on food for the sake of this truth. It is because of the people who work hard in farming, we have no famine trouble in order to find more interesting colors in the world. So this formula, I start from a similar shape of farmland drawing. If you are not busy at this time, you may wish to move your hands together to draw this formula. So are you ready now? Because fun madness is being born. First of all, we learned that in the EPR paradox there is a reference to splitting a particle into A particles and B particles moving in opposite directions to each other, which clearly describes the orientation problem involved in the experiment. And here we take the simple southeast, northwest and 4 directions to add to the formula, and now the basic for Palace square formula is available. From the development process of quantum mechanics, we know that the photon experiment is carried out by different experimental methods, such as the electron double-slit interference experiment, Big Bell experiment, and so on. At this time, we have to convert the formula into a multi-dimensional graph and summarize the experimental method into 4 properties to add to the formula, and we will use a 1 to a 4 to represent the experimental method. Then, based on the fact that the experiments are carried out in nature, here we will add the natural electromagnetic field to the formula. Many people may not understand why natural electromagnetic fields should be added here. In fact, the movement of natural electromagnetic fields is the concept of time in the microscopic world. The electromagnetic waves emitted by the sun and other stars cause changes in the Earth's magnetic field particles, so it is called electromagnetic field motion. The electromagnetic field motion variable is mainly because of the Earth's rotation, which is affected by electromagnetic waves or similar electromagnetic waves with different quantitative intensity. Simply speaking, the change of the natural electromagnetic field every second is the space-time that has passed. If you don't understand what electromagnetic fields are, you can read the story of British scientist Faraday or physicist Maxwell. Now that we know that the natural electromagnetic field movement is the concept of time in the microscopic world, we will divide the electromagnetic field into the 12 hours used in the ordinary watch as a cyclic calculation unit to be added to the formula, and then simplify the particle spin into 4 properties to be added to the formula. But here's a caveat. Because the natural electromagnetic field is variable all the time, then the spin property will also use the 12 hours just quoted as the law of the natural electromagnetic field cycle change to calculate the variable of the natural electromagnetic field motion. So every hour we calculate the effect of the natural electromagnetic field on the spin change by moving the spin 1 step further from east to south and so on. At this time, we just need to superimpose all the formulas just drawn together, and then the 4-dimensional concept formula for measuring spin is completed. Isn't it very simple? Then through this formula we are not difficult to find what is the quantum entangled state and superposition state, and this formula has not Einstein's side to look for hidden variables, here by everyone's own analysis. Let's continue to discuss the 4-color theorem, which is currently listed as one of the 3 major mathematical problems in the world. 4-color theorem was first proposed by a British-South African mathematician Guthrie in 1852 until 1872, when the British mathematician Kelly put forward this problem to the London Mathematical Society, so the 4-color conjecture has become a problem of concern to the global mathematical community. More about the title of the story background, interested friends can search for their own online. Below we will directly begin to solve the problem. So the four-color theorem means that all maps can be separated without confusion by using only four colors? Now we carefully check all the maps in the past according to the title, and we will find that there is a time hole in this problem. If we want to use all the maps to verify this problem, you will find that you can always use for colors and cannot use for colors superposition state. As for whether any map can be colored with four colors, it seems to be a question of time, and with the passage of time, the four-color conjecture is impossible to have a definitive answer. Now that we know that it is impossible to use four colors to color all maps, does that mean that the existence of this problem is meaningless? The answer is definitely not. The significance of the four-color theorem so far is more like encouraging each of us to think boldly about how to create infinite possibilities in limited conditions, rather than to prove it in order to want to prove it. At this time, if we want to have a definitive answer, we only need to refer to the traditional physical school of local theory and realism to solve the problem, and the four-color theorem will naturally be solved. Now we will take out all the maps in the past to compare. Have you found that all the maps are inseparable from the southeast, northwest for directions as the basis? So here we refer to the orientation formula just drawn, and the latitude and longitude as a fixed point into the formula, randomly fill in their favorite four colors. Now the four-color theorem, this problem is easy to solve. Then we apply this longitude and latitude map formula to the microscopic world. Does it feel like you have turned on the light? However, friends who have started to color the area should also find a problem. That is, no matter which four colors are used to color the area, it seems to be a little mutually exclusive feeling, right? At this time we need to think carefully. Every region seems to coexist in the same earth. Why do we have to use color to give it a sharp contrast? As I said before, we should not prove this problem just for the sake of proving it. In the past, it seems that we have been so busy chasing the distinctive scenery that we have neglected to discover the interesting stories in the sounds of the world. For example, in a global breakthrough published in the academic journal Cell on March 30, 2023, researchers at Tel Aviv University in Israel discovered for the first time the clear sound made by plants. So we can refer to this news, quote some interesting elements to participate in the interpretation of the four-color theorem. To make the problem more interesting, we can try to change the color to musical notes. In terms of musical notes, I chose gong, shang, ju, zi and yu, which originated in the spring and autumn period of China for 76770 BC to integrate into the formula. And the extra note, we will hide it in all the latitude and longitude, and the note will appear in which latitude and longitude is equal to what rhythm. I now randomly put it on a fixed point for everyone's reference. As for what kind of rhythm you like and what kind of function can correspond to can only be explored and decided by you. But you must understand clearly, the above operation, I do not have any disrespect for the author of the title, but simply through the review of the new will cite some interesting elements to share with you, so I hope you do not misunderstand. Now let's continue to share a story that happened in the 18th century. In the 18th century, in 1742, Swiss scientist Leonhard Euler received a letter from the Prussian mathematician Goldbach, asking Euler to help prove a mathematical problem. And this very problem in the letter is also currently listed as one of the top 3 mathematical puzzles in the world, Goldbach's conjecture. So what does Goldbach's conjecture actually mean? Considering that the previous content may let you too much participation in thinking, so here I will not read the title in the form to explain what the meaning of the title. I chose a way to pay tribute to the former to share the solution to the problem, that is, to help the former use the power of our current era to put a full stop to this math problem spanning nearly 300 years. If you want to get more information about this topic, as long as their own online search will understand the content of this topic. So for the Goldbach conjecture solution method, in fact, we only need to find an experienced friend in Feng Shui to interpret it will know the answer. Of course, if there is no rigorous research, there is no right to speak. I have tried to use Feng Shui knowledge to solve this problem before sharing with you. However, it is important to note that if Goldbach's conjecture is solved by a friend of our time, it does not mean that we have surpassed the mathematicians who worked on Goldbach's conjecture in the past. For example, like Leonhard Euler, Hua Luozheng, Wang Yuan, Chen Jingren, and other mathematicians who have participated in the study of this topic, their achievements in mathematics and their contributions to mathematics are not what we can easily compare. See here, do not know if you have found a problem. The above content is all related to mathematics. Many friends may not know what the significance of the study of these mathematical formulas is. Then mathematical formulas are an important tool for accurate description and quantitative analysis of nature and various scientific phenomena. Mathematics is often in front of science. In fact, the study of mathematics can help us to understand the motion of objects and the laws of the operation of the universe. For example, when we need to make choices in the face of the future, most of us almost rely on the information that has happened in the past to make choices about the future. In fact, the choice made in this case is very high risk. Because the changes in the operation of the universe are subverting some of our knowledge of the past at any time, we cannot judge what will happen in the future by relying on superficial information learned in the past. At this time, it is very important to know how to use mathematical tools to help us make choices. I wonder if you were lazy when you drew the formula just now, because now we need to take the quadrilateral formula that we just drew and convert it. The four notes are understood as four different properties of things such as matter, form, etc., and the spin is understood as four different concepts of the development of things such as stages, characteristics, etc. What the missing notes do and where they appear is up to you to explore and decide. Now we have a simple conceptual mathematical tool to help us make choices about the future. Does having such a mathematical tool to help judge the development of things directly reduce the risk of making wrong choices? And things have become more maneuverable, right? At this time we take a look at the quadrilateral formula. Do you seem to have the eyes of God at this time? Of course, the quadrilateral formula shown above is not complete. For example, what are the components of the natural electromagnetic field and some other parameters and formulas that are not incorporated into the quadrilate? The above is to facilitate everyone to be able to quickly understand and to facilitate everyone to analyze whether there is really no hidden variables mentioned by Einstein and draw a simplified version of the formula. At present, there is no scientific answer to how to define the components of natural electromagnetic fields. As for how to prove these problems scientifically, it is not of great significance to me personally, but whether we are encouraged to discover more culture and knowledge in different sounds, which is more meaningful to me. So in order to further share some interesting knowledge with you, I choose to share the top feng shui knowledge with you in the way of poetry. Let's listen to it. 从我起宅为令，牢记此事看坐相，无许登门有良策。观星望月看日出，前后10年无不知。四海之内全通用，真招送给有缘人。So this is the end of feng shui knowledge sharing. I hope my sharing can make you realize that each of us is the God who rolls the dice. We all want miracles to happen to us in life, but you know what? The key to a miracle actually comes from what I learn, what I know, and definitely not from praying for God to give me something. I am Yuan. If you trust my advice can help you in your career or other aspects, you may wish to take the initiative to contact me directly. Thank you for watching and goodbye.